Greetings to each of you, wherever this meets you, wherever you are. I had a thought this morning that I just wanted to send a video of. I wanted to read something for you and with you. I wanted to bring you into and feel you with me. Whoever lands on this video, I'm going to make this video public. Posting it on my Patreon page for beloved patrons, but for anyone. So I hope you feel invited to share it if it's resonating. But this morning I'm like, I want to read this. So I'm going to read to you. I also, just before hitting play, just lit this beautiful candle. Beeswax candle made by an amazing teacher artist, Asia Dorsey, who's also on Patreon. And this is, I'm going to do, the reading is probably going to take 10 minutes, maybe less. We'll see how it goes. It's from the book Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And I'm just going to read to you, to us, to the collective, to the air, to the trees, to the sky, to our deep longings and dreams. And then after, I'll just share a couple little thoughts, and then I would just love to hear what stirs in you as this is offered. So before we start, let's just take a couple deep breaths, just honoring where we are, honoring our bodies, honoring our existence, all the things that are going on in our minds and in our hearts, all the things that go on around us and deep, deep within us. We just invite openness and flexibility, expansion as we breathe. So let's breathe openness and flexibility all the way in. And openness and flexibility around us as we breathe out. Openness and flexibility all the way in. And slowly out. Openness and flexibility all the way in, reaching to the edges of our toes and our fingers. And slowly out. So as I read, I just invite you to pause, come back to it, whatever, be you, however this flows. Like I said, I thought about doing this morning as I was reading this, and so I dreamed not long ago of that market with all its vivid textures. I walked through the stalls with a basket over my arm as always, and went right to Adita for a bunch of fresh cilantro. We chatted and laughed, and when I held out my coins, she waved them off, patting my arm and sending me away. A gift, she said. Muchas gracias, señora, I replied. There was my favorite panadera, with clean cloths laid over the round loaves. I chose a few rolls, opened my purse, and this vendor, too, gestured away my money as if I were impolite to suggest paying. I looked around in bewilderment. This was my familiar market, and yet everything had changed. It wasn't just for me. No shopper was paying. I floated through the market with a sense of euphoria. Gratitude was the only currency accepted here. It was all a gift. It was like picking strawberries in my field. The merchants were just intermediaries passing on gifts from the earth. I looked in my basket, 2 zucchinis, an onion, tomatoes, bread, and a bunch of cilantro. It was still half empty, but it felt full. I had everything I needed. I glanced over at the cheese stall, thinking to get some, but knowing it would be given, not sold. I decided I could do without. It's funny. Had all the things in the market merely been very low price, I probably would have scooped up as much as I could. But when everything became a gift, I felt self-restraint. I didn't want to take too much, and I began thinking of what small presents I might bring to the vendors tomorrow. The dream faded, of course, but the feelings first of euphoria and then of self-restraint remain. I've thought of it often and recognize now that I was witness there to the conversion of a market economy to a gift economy, from private goods to commonwealth. And in that transformation, the relationships became as nourishing as the food I was getting. Across the market stalls and blankets, warmth and compassion were changing hands. There was a shared celebration of abundance for all we'd been given. And since every market basket contained a meal, there was justice. I'm a plant scientist and I want to be clear, but I'm also a poet and the world speaks to me in metaphor. When I speak of the gift of berries, I do not mean that Fragaria virginiana has been up all night making a present just for me, strategizing to find exactly what I'd like on a summer morning. So far as we know, that does not happen. But as a scientist, I am well aware of how little we do know. The plant has in fact been up all night assembling little packets of sugar and seeds and fragrance and color, because when it does so, its evolutionary fitness is increased. When it is successful in enticing an animal such as me to disperse its fruit, its genes for making yumminess are passed on to ensuing generations with a higher frequency than those of the plant whose berries were inferior. The berries made by the plant shape the behaviors of the dispersers and have adaptive consequences. What I mean, of course, is that our human relationship with strawberries is transformed by our choice of perspective. It is human perception that makes the world a gift. When we view the world this way, strawberries and humans alike are transformed. The relationship of gratitude and reciprocity, thus developed, can increase the evolutionary fitness of both plant and animal. A species and a culture that treat the natural world with respect and reciprocity will surely pass on genes to ensuing generations with a higher frequency than the people who destroy it. The stories we choose to shape our behaviors have adaptive consequences. Lewis Hyde has made extensive studies of gift economics. He finds that, quote, objects will remain plentiful because they are treated as gifts. A gift relationship with nature is a, quote, formal give and take that acknowledges our participation in and dependence upon natural increase. We tend to respond to nature as a part of ourselves, not a stranger or alien available for exploitation. I'm just going to read that again, beautiful people. We tend to respond to nature as a part of ourselves, not a stranger or alien available for exploitation. We tend to respond to nature as a part of ourselves, not a stranger or alien available for exploitation. Gift exchange is the commerce of choice, for it is commerce that harmonizes with or participates in the process of nature's increase. Unquote. In the old times when people's lives were so directly tied to the land, it was easy to know the world as gift. When fall came, the skies would darken with flocks of geese, honking, quote, here we are, unquote, reminded the people of the creation story when the geese came to save Sky Woman. The people are hungry, winter is coming, and the geese fill the marshes with food. It is a gift, and the people receive it with thanksgiving, love, and respect. But when the food does not come from a flock in the sky, when you don't feel the warm feathers cool in your hand and know that a life has been given for yours, when there is no gratitude in return, that food may not satisfy. It may leave the spirit hungry while the belly is full. Something is broken when the food comes on a styrofoam tray wrapped in slippery plastic, a carcass of a being whose only chance at life was a cramped cage. That is not a gift of life. It is a theft. How in our modern world can we find our way to understand the earth as a gift again, to make our relations with the world sacred again? I know we cannot all become hunter-gatherers. The living world could not bear our weight, but even in a market economy, can we behave, quote, as if the world were a living gift? The living world were a gift. We could start by listening to Wally. Wally's a character that was brought in earlier in the book. There are those who will try to sell the gifts, but as Wally says of sweetgrass for sale, don't buy it. Refusal to participate is a moral choice. Water is a gift for all, not meant to be bought and sold. Don't buy it. When food has been wrenched from the earth, depleting the soil and poisoning our relatives in the name of higher yields, don't buy it. In material fact, strawberries belong only to themselves. The exchange relationships we choose determine whether we share them as a common gift or sell them as a private commodity. A great deal rests on that choice. For the greater part of human history and in places in the world today, common resources were the rule. But some invented a different story, a social construct in which everything is a commodity to be bought and sold. The market economy story has spread like wildfire, with uneven results for human well-being and devastation for the natural world. But it is just a story we have told ourselves, and we are free to tell another, to reclaim the old one. One of these stories sustains the living systems in which we depend. One of these stories opens the way to living in gratitude and amazement at the richness and generosity of the world. One of these stories asks us to bestow our own gifts in kind, to celebrate our kinship with the world. We can choose. If all the world is a commodity, how poor we grow. When all the world is a gift in motion, how wealthy we become. When all the world is a gift in motion, how wealthy we become. In those childhood fields waiting for strawberries to ripen, I used to eat the sour white ones, sometimes out of hunger, but mostly from impatience. I knew the long-term results of my short-term greed, but I took them anyway. Fortunately, our capacity for self-restraint grows and develops like the berries beneath the leaves. So I learned to wait, a little. I remember lying on my back in the fields, watching the clouds go by and rolling over to check the berries every few minutes. When I was young, I thought the change might happen that fast. Now I am old and I know that transformation is slow. The commodity economy has been here on Turtle Island for 400 years, eating up the white strawberries and everything else. But people have grown weary of the sour taste in their mouths. A great longing is upon us to live again in a world made of gifts. I can scent it coming, like the fragrance of ripening strawberries rising on the breeze. Let's just take a couple deep breaths just to honor these words, these stories, these invitations, wherever they meet you, whatever sticks, whatever calls. Just breathe it all the way in. Slowly out. Breathing all the way in. Slowly out, Let's breathe deeply all the way into the edges of our fingers and toes. I read that this morning, and I've been kind of bouncing around this book. I've had it for a while, and I love it. It's beautiful, and she references Lewis Hyde, who's the author of The Gift, which is another amazing book. And there's just so much beautiful writing, poetry out there, inviting us into these ways. Sacred Economics is another one. I'm gonna put a lot of little links and kind of other things to read or lean into in the Patreon post, maybe also in the YouTube. So the Patreon post will be public too. So if you want to share it or invite people to take a look, I wanted to just share a couple. I've been experimenting as much as I can, imperfectly, with how I relate to the reference of transaction, commodity, commodifying, and products, the things that I make and give and offer. And I have always kind of in some sort of way, deeply, as she's saying, in some ways, growing weary. I've been growing weary of valuing my worth and your worth, or the worth of the earth, by a currency that is not reciprocal to the thriving of you or me or the earth. And so it's an exhausting space. And so as many of you know, with my ink prints, the little things that I'm drawing and kind of gifting out, I still operate with dollars as an option, but in everything that I post, I'm, as much as I can, trying to communicate that I operate in gift and in trade as well. And I can't even, the things that she's referencing, but there's so many stories. Gift in motion is exactly how it feels. The exchange of energy, the exchange of story, the things that go on when something is gifted. And it's not this immediate transactional return. It's this energetic force that starts to show up when we start sharing our currencies, our resources, outside of just, it doesn't mean money isn't, the world as it is, money is how we operate in so many ways. So it's like including money as a part of this spectrum, but inviting all these other things has been something that it has touched me in so many beautiful ways, and I have so many stories that I could share, but I'll save that for another time. And I'll also add to, just related to this last year, I've been just more intentionally not eating meat as much. Anything that I purchase or buy is a meat substitute, or it's once in a while knowing exactly where, or feeling really good about where the meat is coming from. And then, if others are cooking for me, or I'm at a guest's home or something, then, I've released some of that and just received the gift. And I'm not saying this is the way to do it or the right thing. It's just offering kind of how I've been experimenting. But it has been really positive when she brings up our stomach might be full, but our spirit is feeling empty. There is so much actively happening with gifting these art pieces to people all over the world, or sending these rocks that I pick up as gifts, or exchanging stories. And I've had exchanges from blankets to green chili to the things that just show up when we can diversify how we live in gift, and in all, like, in its simplest form, it's human. It's not even like, there's terms like gift economy and things like that, and that's great, but it's like, this is just being human and being of creation being something that is growing and that is from the planet, that is from all the different elements. And so this reciprocity that we need each other, we need to care for the planet needs us caring for her. Like, there's just so much there. And it's so human. And I do not pretend to have hard answers, or I think that's why I just really appreciate kind of all the layers of what I read or what I offered, what Robin is offering in her book, because I think it touches a lot of important pieces where at the end it's like transformation is slow. It's not something we just bulldoze in and expect certain results. Like, it's just something we can start opening our hearts to and our relationships to, and maybe we don't buy those things anymore, or maybe we reconsider how we sell things, or maybe we start experimenting with how we move our gifts in the world, like all these different things. So I would just love, if this is something that you have a lot of curiosity about, or that is really just speaking to you in meaningful ways, I'd love to hear more of your questions, or maybe things that you've tried. I know there are several of you who live and operate in this way all the time, or have experimented with some of this stuff with your work or your family relationships or your household, whatever. I'd love to hear it. So please, like, share stories or comments or reach out to me. I'd be honored. So also just blessings to my dear friend Nicole, who has inspired me so much in this way. She's just a beautiful human who is constantly experimenting in these spaces and has for years. Her Patreon is a caring culture. You can look it up. I'll link all this stuff. And then I just want to thank all of the Intrinsic Paths patrons who flow alongside this creative, your gift energy, not just financial, your energy, the way you show up for my creative work in the world means everything to me, and is a part of this beautiful stream of generosity that I feel in everything, including this video. So blessings to each of you. Thank you, Robin Kimmerer, for blessing us with this reading. And here, I'll put the book up here again, just in case you haven't seen it. Braiding Sweetgrass. Okay. Peace.